Of course, NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, our good friend, has warned us all of a dangerous alliance that is brewing and forming between Russia, China, Iran, and the DPRK. Let's talk about perhaps Sky can get you in here to talk about what's going on here, what's going on in the world that is causing this fear. We have, and maybe I can read this quote that Garland shared from the Global Times editorial, which said, China and Russia will not target any third party, but if hegemonic forces threaten China and Russia or threaten world peace, China and Russia will stand together and fight to protect their own interests and safeguard world peace together. So, Scott, I'll bring you in just to comment on this.
If you recall, when Putin and Xi met in February 4th of 2021, 2022.
2022, yes, right before at the Olympics.
At the Winter Olympics. They published a joint statement, 5,000 some odd words. But one of the things was that they have a relationship that's stronger and greater than any treaty, that a treaty is binding and it's containing and constraining, that a treaty has limits. They said our relationship's without limits, and that our relationship will grow and develop as the situation warrants. So first of all, we need to understand that for people who tend to be dismissive of declarative policy in a world that's governed by written agreements, formal agreements, some people might be more dismissive of the Chinese statement. Don't be, because what China just committed to is stronger and more powerful than any treaty. Russia and China have just put the West on notice that if there's military intervention in Ukraine, it isn't just Russia that's going to respond. China will respond. How China responds, I don't know. But China's saying we'll be side by side with Russia. And if the West, and Garland and I have talked about this for some time now, if the West makes a move on Taiwan, it ain't just going to be the Chinese that are fighting. You got all them Russians up there, and they're going to come down. So, hey, you Japanese over there who make a lot of noise about, we're going to flex our Japanese muscles, and if there's a war in Taiwan, Japan might have to come in. Well, you might lose Hokkaido. So chew on that for a while. I don't know if they'll lose Hokkaido, but the Russians aren't playing games. Neither are the Chinese. And it's not just limited to their sphere of influence. Now they're saying, because again, let's take a step back and look at a global geopolitical picture. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization now includes Iran. BRICS, Iran. They're talking about a Trans-Eurasian Economic Union. Iran's plugged into that. Iran's plugged into everything. So now if we have a situation that blows up in the Middle East and Iran starts going to war against Israel and maybe the United States intervenes, what was that part about international security, threatening international security? Suddenly Russia and China may be coming to the assistance of Iran or any other place where the United States and the global and the collective West starts to stick their nose where it doesn't belong. This is a game-changing statement. It needs to be taken seriously by everybody, and understand that declarative statements like this, given the context of the Russian-Chinese relationship, have more weight than written treaty, because there are no limits. That's what they said. This is a relationship without any limits. And there's some people have been doubting that. The Chinese and the Russians don't get along, historical problems, the Russians are afraid, this, that, and the other thing. That statement says it all, and I think that statement speaks for itself. And the West better wake up to this new reality.
Yeah, I agree. Sputnik also has an article. Lavrov says Russia, China agree to start dialogue on creation of Eurasian security. So it sounds to me like they're going to put together, I think what we're looking at is they're going to utilize their economic and diplomatic infrastructure, BRICS, SCO, et cetera, and they're going to intertwine that with some kind of a security apparatus, not, like the Warsaw Pact versus NATO, but some kind of, I think part of it will be, this is something I think they learned a lot from Iran. that Iran was able to do force multipliers, right? Iran was able to say, we've got certain strengths and certain weaknesses, but we got people over here on our side. We'll give them guns. We got missiles. We'll give some people here. That way, you're going to be afraid. You may feel that you can punch us, but you got to look over your shoulder. This way, is there a punch coming this way, that way? Does this guy behind me have a knife? Does that guy have a baseball bat, right? So I think that's why we're seeing a significant upgrade, particularly in the technical abilities of North Korea. I think we're going to see the Russia and China, along with Iran, build an axis of resistance that's going to include, look what's happening in the Sahel. I read something a while back that Ibrahim Traore, he's the young leader for Burkina Faso, mentioned that, we're getting a lot of military hardware. I've got some missiles that have come in. I've got some things that have delivered that's going to help me protect themselves. So I think traditionally, the US, France, or whoever would just go in and beat up some little African country and take what they wanted. Now you see what happened in the Sahel. A number of countries, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, come together and say, if you fight one of us, you fight all of us. I think what we're seeing is the building of a block of resistance worldwide to create an environment where, rather than having to fight the U.S. empire won't. What are they going to do? Okay, you won't do what we're saying in Africa. We're going to go over and attack you. Oh, you won't do what we're saying over here. We're going to attack you. They're going to create an environment where they can't fight everybody. And I think Russia and China are also making it clear. You guys are worried about the first island chain, second, third island chain, all of that. If we got submarines, we got hypersonic missiles and everything. All of those are going to do you no good if you have to fight two superpowers. And let's face it, the U.S. military, everyone knows the U.S. can't take on Russia and China at the same time. And I think we're getting to the point where Russia and China are making it clear the days when you could fight one of us or threaten one of us is over. If you're going to threaten us, you're going to have to fight both. And you're not going to win that. So don't even try it.
Yeah. And Scott, I'm wondering about, because there's when I listen to someone like Jens Stoltenberg, or really anyone in the collective West, talk about this so-called almost like a new axis of evil forming, we both hear citations of the kind of almost like admitting kind of a military prowess that's being built up, both Russia, China, DPRK, that these countries are actually becoming just more equipped. They're working together and they're becoming just more equipped to defend themselves. But they're, of course, framing it. NATO is framing it as a problem, a danger to, of course, the rules-based international order. But on the other side, I'm also wondering about the how all of this kind of plays into the United States and NATO legitimately pursuing, based on whatever. I'm wondering what you think about why, but pursuing based on what they see as their own interest, a policy of war against all of these countries, and seriously wanting to go about this despite, I think, all of the limitations that both of you have. And I know, Scott, you've been covering a lot on this, the limitations that the United States and NATO have. So which is it? Is it both, or what explains this kind of axis of evil kind of thinking right now, given that we, whenever we go around the geopolitical landscape, it isn't as if there is some kind of a prospect for victory in any sense of the word?
Well, there was a time when the United States could walk the earth like Charles Atlas on a beach. I don't know, I'm giving away my age, but Garland, you're the same age as me. You remember the matchbooks, and you'd open them up and they show the little skinny kid getting kicked sand on the beach, and then he rode away and he lifted weights and he became Charles Atlas on the beach, and he's a muscle man and all that kind of stuff. There was a time when America could do that. And when a strong guy walks into a room full of people who aren't as strong, he just has to sort of hint that he wants something to happen, and it falls in place. There was a time, especially at the end of the collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, where America was the sole remaining superpower. And so we thought that we could just waltz in like Charles Atlas, flex, get the girls, do what we wanted, and the world was great. The problem is we stopped going to the gym. We started eating too many chips, and we started sitting on the couch watching videos of how good we used to be, and we stopped training. And our muscles atrophied. We got fat. We got old. And meanwhile, other people are picking up the matchbooks and saying, this is how you get strong again. And so we were going around, and now the world is sitting looking at us going, well, we're not intimidated by you. You don't have any muscles when you flex. Our muscles are a little bit bigger, and we're not going to play this game anymore. And the United States doesn't have a plan B. NATO is militarily impotent. I mean, I had to laugh. I don't mean to pick on people, and if you're listening, this person, I'm not picking on you. But I got a comment. The Germans have gone insane. I said, really? Why? Because they're gonna send a permanent brigade to Lithuania. I said, good. Wow, a whole brigade. I mean, can they do it? Well, they've done it. I said, no, they sent a 20-man advance party of the command element that's going to go there, set up a headquarters, start drinking beer, eating schnitzel, getting fat. But it's the Germans. They can barely support the reinforced battalion that they have in Lithuania. They had to literally cannibalize all of their armored brigades that are left to come up with one battalion. Now they're talking about putting a brigade in there, so they're busy cannibalizing everything else. They get that brigade in there, the German army doesn't have anything left, nothing. So here's NATO, again, flexing a muscle. That's like me, instead of going to the gym, just getting one of those little wrist things so I can go, oh, look, I got a muscle right here in my forearm. But everybody else is going, where's your legs? Where's your abs? Where's your chest? You got nothing to back that up. That's Germany. They're doing a whole bunch of this to get a little flex here, and there's nothing there. That's all of NATO. France is talking about deploying troops to Ukraine. I don't think they're going to do it now because it's been exposed as insanity. Russia will kill them all. But it's a brigade, 1,500 to 2,000 guys, a brigade. France can only send one brigade because they don't have anything else that's capable of being deployed at this time. The United States, the world's greatest military power, we got 100,000 plus guys in Europe right now. Poland asked us to send more. And the United States said, no. Why? We don't have anything to send. We would have to mobilize National Guard units for what? For how long? And once we mobilize them, understand they're earmarked for other things. There was a time when we were all pivoting to the Pacific. We had to get out of the Middle East so we could pivot to the Pacific. No sooner do we get out of the Middle East, Europe blows up. We pour troops in there. Now the Middle East is blowing up, and the Pacific's going, where's all the troops you promised us? Well, we're sending them here, there, and everywhere. All this talk about defending Taiwan, defending South Korea, where are the troops coming from? Is anybody familiar with the operational planning for instance, the defense of South Korea? We have to hold while we mobilize hundreds of thousands of troops and ship them to South Korea. That takes months. And that's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't happen like this. Taiwan, we don't even have a plan. It would have to be taking the South Korean plan and modifying it, but there's no reception centers. There's no forces to fall in on. There's nothing there. In Europe, we deploy troops. There's nothing. This isn't like the 1980s where we had divisions worth of heavy equipment pre-positioned for troops to fall in on. Whatever we send to Europe, they got to bring everything with them. And then they have to sustain it, and we don't have the big logistic support anymore. We don't have it. Nobody has it. So you have NATO in there talking, Stoltenberg talking. There's nothing there, literally nothing there. And this is the reality of NATO. I mean, I think the Swedes and the Finns are starting to wake up to just how bad of a deal they got here by joining NATO, because now people are saying, well, now that you're in, you got to spend all your money on building up your military. But we joined NATO to protect us. But NATO can't protect you. So you're going to need to protect yourself. So, and plus, in order to protect yourself, you have to buy all the American airplanes and all the, because that's the only reason why we want you in, is so that we can justify selling you more equipment. And they're going, well, that's not a very good deal, is it? No, it's a horrible deal, one that's going to bankrupt you in the long term. But NATO right now is an empty suit. It's a house of cards. You huff and you puff, and it will blow down. So Stoltenberg can sit there and flex all he wants. Stoltenberg and flexing, two terms you wouldn't normally hear together. But this is the reality. NATO's got nothing. I mean, maybe Garland disagrees with me, but this is what I just think that NATO's purely an empty suit.
Well, here's what I'll say. What we're looking at is this: the financialization of the U.S. economy. Simple as that. How does the U.S. make money now? And we don't get any of it, by the way. How do the billionaires make money? Through derivatives, through asset-backed securities. Who even knows what the hell those things are? I mean, you can figure out what they are, but in reality, they'll take some loans and they'll slice that into a bunch of other loans and sell parts of the loans they have, saying that's going to eventually pay X amount of percent. It doesn't even make sense. That's how they make money. Here's my point. You don't need factories for asset-backed securities and derivatives, so they close down all the factories. But you do need factories if you want tanks. You do need factories if you want shells. So the financialization of the economy necessitated a deindustrialization because those things weren't necessary. And once you don't have an industry, you don't have the military capacity. The reason we don't have a military capacity is because it requires industry. And so this is a result of the financialization of so they'll do all kinds of, they can make money all kinds of ways. They can rent this. They can come up with something new. Student loans, they can prey on the students and get their money. They got a house payment at 23 and no house, right? All good and fine. That works. But if you're going to have kinetic warfare, somebody has to make a shell. Somebody has to make a tank. Somebody has to make a Jeep. We don't have the capacity to make that anymore. Now, can we make the planes and ships? Yes. But again, in a financialized economy, that's not a plane anymore. It's a product. It's not designed to be a weapon of war. It's designed to make a profit. The best plane ever built in the United States was the F-35. Now, pilots say it flies like a piano. That's what the nickname is, that they call it the flying piano. It flies like a piano, and pianos don't fly. But it makes them a fortune. As a product, it's made them like $1.9 trillion, the best plane. As long as you don't need it to fly into harm's way and to attack your enemy, it's the best thing you could ever happen. So the financialization of our economy has created a dynamic where the United States can't possibly go to war, where even our military products are not designed for war. They're designed to make a profit. And that's what, now they're really good at profits. Even that, if you think of the discussion they had, right? We need another $60 billion for Ukraine. What the hell good is $60 billion for Ukraine? They need war material. But the mentality of the U.S., the mentality of the West is about financial. Let's get some more money, guys, together. We got a war going on. You don't need money. You need weapons. So I don't see a financialized economy being able to fight a war now, and it's getting weaker, and it will continue to get weaker.
Yeah. And I think that's why we also see the United States and NATO relying so much on economic warfare. Speaking of which, just real quick, and maybe your closing reactions to when you were talking, Garland, it reminded me, Janet Yellen was just in China for the second time. She didn't bow this time, I don't think, but she was in China. She met with top officials, and here's what she had to say. I know, Garland, you've commented on this, but maybe we get Scott's first reaction, because I think everything you guys are both saying is so true. There's this hollowing out of the United States, of NATO on all spheres, and I think it shows a real decaying empire that is, there's a lot of folks in the elite that want to kind of just make as much money as they can before this whole thing falls down. But this is what Janet Yellen had to say after she visited China.
Now we're seeing an increase in business investment in a number of new industries targeted by the PRC's industrial policy. And that includes electric vehicles, lithium-ion batteries, and solar. China is now simply too large for the rest of the world to absorb this enormous capacity. Actions taken by the PRC today can shift world prices. And when the global market is flooded by artificially cheap Chinese products, the viability of American and other foreign firms is put into question.
So much for the free market. Scott, your reaction?
What do they want? I don't understand. I mean, we have sanctioned China to death. I mean, let's understand that the Chinese economy, just like the Russian economy, what's happening with China and Russia isn't the natural course of development. It's development that takes place because the United States has impeded the natural course of development. We've blocked access to resources. We've blocked access to financing. We've sanctioned this. We've tried to shape things. And as a result, the Chinese have reacted and the Russians have reacted jointly to create a system designed to defeat the American way of doing business, because the American way of doing business was all about choking China off, eliminating competitiveness, etc. We've created a monster. We've created Frankenstein, and now we can't control it. I have no sympathy for Janet Yellen. I have no sympathy for any American businessmen, anybody out there, because you've allowed this to happen. You've allowed these policies. You're the one lobbying and saying strangle. Do you really think the Chinese are going to suffer when we shut down TikTok? If we shut down TikTok, do you think they suffered when we played games with Huawei? Hawaii, I can't pronounce that word. Daddy, help me out here.
Huawei, just Huawei.
Yeah. But the point is, China rolled with the punches. They're going, you think the Russians, we do stupid things, and the Russians go, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to do something to counter that, and they do. What did she want? What did she expect? China and Russia have created an economic system that is designed to overcome anything and everything the Americans can throw at it. Meanwhile, where we're trying to choke them off, their system is designed to exploit the weaknesses that have developed in ours. She's 100% right. America is not the global economic, change machine. What America does, the world. China is. China can hit a switch here and bad things happen there. They can hit a switch here and good things happen there. China's the shot caller right now, and I guess it's difficult for the United States to wake up to that reality. But we have nobody to blame but ourselves. Had we engaged with the Chinese in a normal fashion, we'd actually have more leverage than we do today, because there'd be connectivity. And the Chinese would be more inclined to talk to us and listen to us, because it would be in our mutual interest to have that dialogue. But when we seek to isolate them, don't be surprised when Janet Yellen comes that the Chinese receive her and then shoo her away and don't give a damn about anything she said. Because I can pretty much guarantee you this. There ain't a Chinese official today losing sleep over anything that Janet Yellen said. But in America, everybody's losing sleep over what the Chinese told Janet Yellen.
And look, here's the other thing too. The U.S. is building like some base on the island of Yap, an island so small. I looked, I couldn't find it on the map. I don't think it's on this map. $400 million, right? The U.S. is building bases in the Philippines. I know they bought some of the land for $500 million, right? They're building bases in Finland. Oh, look at that. We're showing the Russians, aren't we? We're building bases in Finland, right? And then they say to China, how dare you spend money on research and development for companies? You're artificially lowering the prices. Well, what happened? What would happen if those billions and billions of dollars were used for research and development here? To use to improve our infrastructure, improve our schools. So we were graduating more STEM kids like the Russians and the Chinese. So we take our money and we use it to buy a gun to put to the head of the Chinese, and we get mad at them because they're educating their children. They're doing research and development for their corporations. They're doing things that put us in a disadvantage only because we're not. Well, let me change this. I was going to say we're not smart with our money. It's not that we're not smart with our money. It's that our system, as it is now, is designed to extract money from the working class and put it in the hands of the billionaires. Our system has gotten to a point now where it only does one thing. It sucks money out of the working class like a vacuum cleaner and puts it in the hands of the billionaires. And so we say to China, hey, you know, our system is not working and your system is working better than ours. That's basically what she said. Your system's working and we can't compete. And the Chinese were like, yeah, great observation there, Captain Obvious. Maybe you should, I believe it was Jimmy Carter a few years back who looked at China and he said, like, specifically that we've spent all this money on war and they're building their infrastructure and they're doing all of this money. It's good. No wonder we can't compete with them. Think about, what was it? $1.7 trillion was spent in Afghanistan. What if that money had been used to help get kids degrees in science and engineering and things like that? Perhaps they would have been able to make a cheaper washing machine or something. I don't know. But whatever, you get my point. We wasted our money. We're paying the price. And now we want China to make a change and nobody's going to do it. We dug our own economic grave.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.